Chandra. I was born in Bhutan, and from Bhutan I moved to Nepal and stayed in a refugee camp. I was born in Bhutan, I was very little, and I moved to Nepal in a refugee camp. So all I know is about the refugee camp, where we never had access to electricity or clean water. It was a very tough life, no security. It was very hard. And coming from a typical camp life and trying to adjust here in American culture is really tough. Coming from a place where there is nothing and coming to America where there is pretty much everything was very challenging. And I really had a big culture shock coming here and trying to adjust here. And I do have problems with my language. I mean, I understand what people were talking to me, but when I was talking to them, they were like, what? And but with time, I think I'm just getting better. Talking about volunteerism, community is an inevitable part of the agency, and it's with the help of community, with the aid of community, the program, the refugee program or any resettlement program, it's just not possible to my perspective. It's pretty obvious that our culture is time obsessed. We always have something to worry about in our life, everywhere we go. Regardless of that fact, the community has been very helpful in trying to help refugees, trying to invest their time in doing something. And we all appreciate what the community does, and even simple help like using microwave oven, or trying to teach them how to do shopping, or trying to help them with grocery shopping, things like that, very little things. They really appreciate it because they have no clue how to do shopping here. When I got here, I had no idea how to do shopping, and it was very tough. And when communities step up and do something about it, the refugees, they really appreciate their help. Well, volunteering with the refugees, it's very important to understand the culture. Sometimes you might volunteer with a family, and you go there and they are not talking to you. It does not mean that they does not want to talk to you, it's just because they are not used to the culture. So it's kind of hard for the first time. And we were the first family. Since we were the first family in Twin Falls, it was very hard for our family because there was no one to tell us what to expect in America. And we finally get to meet Michelle, and C is phenomenal. And C helped us to connect with a volunteer. She is Melissa Davlin. She works for Times News as a reporter, news reporter. And she helps us to teach basic vocabulary, different American slangs, and teach us about what's appropriate and what not. And for the first time, it was very hard, but once we are used to it, we were very close friends. And most of the refugees, if you are a friend at their house, they expect you to be a friend everywhere. For example, if you're a friend at their house, they want you to be your friends. If you see them in Walmart, when you go wherever, it's kind of cultural that they consider you as a close friends once you're used to it. And most of the time, it's very common that when you are going to volunteer in a refugee house, they don't talk, or they just kind of feel shy. That does not mean that they don't want to talk to you. It's just that they are not used to the culture, and they just need some time to adjust in this culture. And as far as what does not work, it's very working with the volunteers. I realized that like most of the people who came here as a refugee, they take things very literally. Something like, I'll catch you tonight, and they were like, what? Things like he's pain in the butt, and they're like, what? They take things very literally. So it's very important to kind of use the simple language, and it's very important to understand a little bit of their background. But like I said, we all appreciate what community do. And they invest their time regardless of their busy life and busy work schedule. It's very important that we are here, and I always keep thinking that if I were to be in camp, I would die without having privilege to drive, without having privilege to be safe and things like that. I'm very proud to be here in America. And I'd like to thank you so much for all of your help. And this is way better than camp, obviously. And I'd like to thank you so much for everything. And God bless America.
You guys have some questions?
If there's any questions, we will answer those.
Did you ever have a bad volunteer? Somebody that you wished you then weren't going to see again? Anyone?
Not like my volunteer Melissa Evansi was wonderful, but I do have some families that they complain of the volunteer that they are, they came once or twice and they're like gone forever. But most of the time, I mean, they appreciate even if you spend some time with them, it's very important that they get to learn something else here in this new place. So they appreciate everything. Okay.
Namaskar. What were your expectations of your volunteer?
That's a good question. Most of the time, the refugees expect the volunteers trying to teach the basic cultures. I mean, what's appropriate and what's not. Trying to get adjusted in this culture. And other things, sometimes they expect you to take you to grocery shopping, so teach them how to do shoppings. Does not mean that all refugees need that help. Some are very brilliant. Some of them, they already know what they are doing. But some part, they just need help with, first thing, trying to get adjusted in this culture and just trying to get adjusted in this culture, and then simple things like teaching them how to do shopping or going out, doing outdoor activities. And fishing, I love fishing. Maybe. Yeah, so.
Tell me a little bit, are you using volunteers for helping to teach driving?
We're going to get into that.
Yeah,
we'll get to that.
yes,
Okay, all right.
we'll get to that.
All right.
Is there any other questions?
Were you ever concerned that the volunteer did not know your cultural manners? And sometimes the volunteer may have trespassed, like personal space
Hugging,
and
whatever.
things like this. How did you deal with it?
That's another good question. Sometimes that happens, but very rare. Once in a while, but some of them they just feel bad sometimes, but yeah, sometimes that's a problem. And like I said, it's very important to understand a little bit of their culture and what they expect and things like that. But sometimes that happens.
And it goes back to the training that you
Yeah.
provide both the volunteers and the refugees. It can be helpful to set up a meeting the first time you introduce them, go over some of the ground rules, the expectations, and things like that. And I laid it out there. I said sometimes maybe your volunteer is going to do some things that are funny to you guys, that
Yeah.
seem weird. Ask them about it. Tell them about what you do in your culture. It's a cultural exchange is how I explain it to them. And they're going to do the same thing for you. And I tell my volunteers, if you see something that family's doing that maybe is not culturally appropriate in America, talk to them about it, talk to me about it. It's better that they hear it from a kind source like a volunteer than be out in the community and run into problems.
Yeah.
So it needs to happen, that education, awareness, and training.
So the training
With-
is mutual.
Exactly. It's for not just the volunteers,
Yeah.
but the refugees as well. How to deal with your volunteer.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was wondering if you felt obligated or wanted to serve food, or if that was part of the orientation about.
That's most of the time. That's what we do. You hear volunteering for a family, especially from Bhutan. I mean, it's because I know more about people from my country. They always invite you for dinner, and you'll be surprised for sure because we eat pretty much like spicy hot food, and you better run out of the house. It's just like, but so be sure and like if you're working with this family, make sure that I don't eat spicy hot or whatever because that could be a problem. But I mean that when you're involved with the family, they always invite you for food, or if there's any kind of celebration, they'll always invite you to get together and just hear your feelings.
And again, it goes both ways. We
Yeah.
have the volunteers teach them how to make pizza and chocolate.
That's
and
right.
Different things that they keep
Yeah.
hearing about, but maybe have not experienced. So
So is it expected then?
It's up to them.
It's up to them for the most part. Yeah.
Okay. I guess because there's that kind of that fine line of being offensive if you decline to
No.
eat. Is that acceptable, or is there orientation?
And we talk about that. We do talk about that with the refugees as well as the volunteers, kind of what's normal with some of these populations and what to expect. Maybe they're going to offer you food or things like that.
Yeah.
But we also talk with the refugees that here, it's not necessarily appropriate to force food on people, and just be aware of that, because that does happen.
Yeah, we
So-
it's kind of cultural that even if there's a like I'm full, they keep offering you. It's, so yeah, it's something like that.
And there are some
So,
awkward
Yeah.
things, but it just depends on what that volunteer has agreed to do. There's a difference between having a social cultural ambassador that's really connected with a specific family and working with them day in and day out versus someone that's just volunteering as an ESL tutor or something like that. So it kind of goes with the territory of what they're doing as far as the volunteering. So
So just don't clean your plate if you're full, right?
That's right.
but it's something that's you learn as you go on. So
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.